back, everyone. When we talk about inclusion, we often think about it in terms of how others behave, but in reality, it's important to start with ourselves. So joining us today as we mark Pride Month is career coach Sarah Vermunt with small ways we can all be more inclusive in our everyday lives. Sarah, hey, it's still very hard for a lot of LGBTQ plus people and professionals to be themselves in the workplace, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a Human Rights Commission survey that came out that said that 46% of LGBTQ people are not out at work. And that, as a queer woman, that makes a lot of sense to me because I know homophobia exists. And I think we're past the point of relying on leaders to change things. I think we all need to be allies in the workplace.
Absolutely. We all got to put our effort in. So let's talk about some small things that we can all do to be more inclusive.
Yeah, so one of the things that's super easy to do, that you can do in 10 seconds, is put your pronouns at the bottom of your email and your email signature. Now, if you're a straight cisgender person, you might wonder why you need to do that. Like maybe you think your pronouns are really obvious. Well, it's a good thing to do because it sort of signals that you're, I guess, like a safe person for someone to be themselves around. And it signals that you want to respect other people's pronouns. Another thing that's great to do is to start using more gender inclusive language. So let's say you're someone who's in charge of organizing the company barbecue and you want to send out an email that says, hey, everybody, you're welcome to bring your husbands and wives or your girlfriends and boyfriends. Well, actually, a better word to use would be partner, right? Because that will make, let's say, people who are non-binary who work for you or who have a non-binary partner actually be included in that language, right? And all of this stuff is actually more important if you are a leader in your organization because people are going to see what you do and follow suit.
It's all those little changes in languages, because when you use a certain word, people will say automatically, oh, she's an ally, or oh, he's an ally, or they are allies, but it's all about the language. So let's talk about encouraging diverse representation in hiring practices and in professional development. How can we do more of that?
Well, let's say you're on a hiring committee at your workplace. You want to look around, before the hiring process starts to be like, okay, how diverse is this hiring community? Because we tend to hire people like ourselves. So it is very important that your hiring committees be diverse if you want to bring in diversity into your organization. Any sort of group that you're a part of, just like try and bring in more diversity by recommending people. Another thing that you can do in the workplace, like perhaps you work for a company that has some diversity and equity and inclusion training. That's great. But do you notice that a lot of those people are white and straight and cisgendered and able-bodied? If so, those aren't really the people who should be doing diversity and inclusion training, right? So if that's happening in your organization, you might gently want to suggest to leadership or to HR, like, hey, could we have some people come in externally, like a more diverse group of people come in externally and we'll pay them to do some training for us. And you don't want to expect, people who are members of minority groups who work for your company to do the educating for you, right? You want to pay people and you want to bring in the right people. So that's something you can certainly do.
Diversify your people leaders, diversify your educators. It is so crucial and it so rarely happens. So here's the other thing I notice a lot, and I've always said that, it only takes one person to change the temperature in a room. So when you're in a room and you're around a table and you see someone maybe being stomped on, not being listened to, and you know it's because they might be coming from a marginalized group, support that person, echo what that person says. And you're saying it's really important to speak up.
Yeah, there's so many different ways that you can speak up. I mean, I think at this point we should all be advocating for gender neutral washrooms. That's just a really easy thing to advocate for in your workplace. I mean, trans and non-binary people have to pee at work too. Like, can we not have a space where everybody feels safe doing that, right? We need that. Let's also talk about homophobic jokes. 43% of the LGBTQ community has overheard homophobic jokes at work. And 57% of the general population, like the whole population at work, has overheard them as well, but is afraid to say something, right? And so I think we need to start saying something. And this isn't just for homophobic jokes. This is racist jokes, misogynist jokes, transphobic jokes, whatever it is. we need to start feeling comfortable saying something. So if you want to say something in the moment, that is a good thing to do. If you can muster the courage to do that, you want to try it, right? And you can just say something like, let's say you're walking past the lunchroom, or you're in the lunchroom with a bunch of your peers, you hear the inappropriate joke, you can just say, whoops, that one was homophobic, and like the room will get quiet. And then moving forward, people will rethink what they share, what they say, and also what they laugh at. You can also choose to perhaps address it afterwards, maybe individually with the person, if you feel like that might be a little less confrontational.
Oh, that's good. But I'm wondering what you do about people who get defensive. If you call someone out and they get defensive, like, do you got any tips for that?
People are going to get defensive, and it is not your job to manage how they handle it. So just be aware that everybody's learning. So actually, I think this is a good question for us to ask ourselves. Like, what do I do when I feel defensive if I get called out at something, right? Because what's likely to happen, and I'll admit, I've been here, if you get called out on something, you're probably going to shame spiral at first, right? Because you probably didn't mean any harm. You're probably really embarrassed that you made a mistake. And you don't want to be that person. So just wait a minute until you cool down. And then if you want to respond, simply say something like, I hadn't considered that, and thank you for pointing it out to me. That's literally all you have to do. The last thing I'll say is you want to be proactive in your own education, right? You don't want to rely on other people when you don't want to tokenize people and ask them questions that you can just Google, right? Like, let's say you don't really understand, I don't know, non-binary. You can find that information in 10 seconds by Googling it. So you want to do that. It's normal to make mistakes. And what we want to do is make sure that we're just doing better when we make mistakes. And so I always think imperfect action is better than saying nothing at all.
I agree 100%. So good. I've been called out or called in before as well via DM, and I get this heat behind my ears. I'm so embarrassed. And then I just say, oh, I screwed up. I'm so sorry. And thank you for course correcting me. We're all learning. Sarah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Excellent information. Love it.
My pleasure.